Just give me a minute. Oh, can you hear me? Let me know. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm just trying out some new sound setups here. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining the stream. I'm trying another dual stream again. We'll see if it works, if anybody shows up on Twitter. Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. I hope everything is well. Let me know about the gain. Make sure it's not too loud for you guys. Is it not too loud? Turn it down a little bit, and we'll take it from there. So far, nobody's showing up on the stream. On Twitter here, you see the pip. So we have here Lobo. Hey, Lobo, how are you? So I'm simultaneously streaming everybody on YouTube and on Twitter. And so on Twitter, perhaps other people will join in the conversation, and we'll pipe it in. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, so if you can hear me, he disappeared. Well, he'll probably come again. So if you can hear me, let me know. Just give me a thumbs if you can hear me on Twitter, because I'm simultaneously streaming on YouTube and Twitter once again. Trying to get 2 for 1 here. Well, let's find out in a second. So, yeah, how's everybody doing? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments on YouTube, where you're from, where you're listening from. And for everybody on Twitter listening, by the way, I'm doing a simultaneous stream on YouTube and on Twitter. So if you can hear me, okay, 100% I see. I think that means you can hear me clearly on the Twitter. I appreciate that. If anybody wants to comment on the Twitter stream here, if you want to let me know about, if you have any questions, you want to come in, let me know, and I'll give you access. And I'm going to try and get the sound piped over to YouTube. And that's it. I hope. Thanks everybody listening, by the way, for bearing with me as I work out the technical details here. So yeah, if you want to, I think you can make a request on Twitter. My mic is off. Twitter mic is off. Hope you are doing well, Uncle. Hey, let me know, guys. First of all, can you hear me clearly? I think Twitter can hear me. What's that? Twitter can hear me, but can other people hear me? Let me know if on YouTube you can hear me. Where is that sound coming from? That's interesting. Huh. So, okay, Ukraine. Wow, Hawaii, Ukraine. My Twitter account is @KillerSites. @KillerSites. Why am I hearing music here? Hold on a second. I'm hearing music for some reason. Where's that music coming from? Autoplay when my background. Oh, screw that. Okay. So that's weird. Music is now playing on. Okay, good. Everybody can hear me on. Everybody can hear me on YouTube. On Twitter, can you guys hear me as well? I think everybody can hear me. If anybody on Twitter, how do I mute this music? A journey, boom, boom, boom. Oh, and no, cancel. Okay. All right. So anybody, I'm going to start answering questions very soon. If on either Twitter or YouTube you have any questions, well, of course, YouTube, you got to text me your questions. And on Twitter, you can ask to get in the stream. I would appreciate that because I want to see if I can get the audio from Twitter to you guys. Okay, let's jump into it. So I wanted to talk briefly about AI again. Now, I've been looking around at it, playing around, looking at AI tools. And so everybody can hear. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me before I get into this. Yes. Okay, good, good, good. So bottom line is this. I'll lead with the conclusion. AI, there's still a music on Twitter. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know why, Mohammed. I have to figure that one out. So hold on here. We got something. 6 listening, enjoy music on Twitter. Yeah, I don't know where that music is coming from. Sorry, guys. Where's that music coming from? Stop. Autoplay. Yeah, they got some problems. Why? Shut off music on Twitter. Where's that? Adjust setting, adjust about speed. Hold on a second, guys. I'll get to it in a second. I'm just trying to figure this one. Adjust settings. Allow everyone, only people you invite to speak. Sound effects. I'll turn off sound effects. It's not working. Give me a second, guys. Only music playing here at the moment. Oh, really? So, Jay, you can't hear me speak on Twitter? Really? Oh, mic is off. Okay. There we go. I think I got it solved. So I assume now on Spaces, on Twitter, you can hear me now, right? Let me know. 100%. Okay, my apologies. Technical hiccups. I'm just trying to figure this one out. Cool, guys. So we're along for the journey. So you got questions? I'll answer them on. Okay, so let me just confirm. Okay, we got some people who know what they're doing here. Cool. Okay, got it. Okay, cool. So, maybe I'll put this here. All right, good. So, I assume everybody can hear me on Twitter. We got the thumbs, 100, good. Got rid of the music because the mic was muted. My apologies. And I assume everybody can hear me clearly on YouTube. On YouTube, yeah, I think we said everybody's good. All right, very good. All right, thank you, Teddy. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic. Okay. It won't happen again. I appreciate you helping me solve these technical issues. So anybody on Twitter who wants to chime in with voice, do so. Let me know, and I'll get you into the conversation. I think I got it set up so that the sound from the Twitter will go into the YouTube stream, so everybody can hear the conversation. I think it's going to be much more fun but we can have people calling into the show essentially. I'm going to be expanding upon this once we go into it. So let me just get back to the AI stuff since I know everybody can hear, and then we'll do the Q&A and we'll do the show and we'll see how it goes. So first of all, everybody's looking at ChatGPT and Copilot and all these other AI tools. Again, initially, I've done several videos on it. I'm going to keep doing them because I want to keep diving deeper into the subject. Yeah, learn AI. Use the AI. Not necessarily learn to become an AI developer, but learn to use AI. AI is a tool that will speed up the development process by a significant amount. Now, I don't know how much, depends on the type of development I bet you're doing, but it is in no way a replacement for developers. Not even close. Anybody who thinks that AI is going to replace developers anytime soon, it's pretty clear to me that they're not professional developers, because development, the coding part, though key and big part of it, it's not the only thing by far. There's many other issues inside of development that you're going to have to contend with no matter what. So it's configuration issues, architectural issues, design issues in terms of the coding and so forth. And a lot of the debugging may have nothing to do with the code you write. It may have to do with configs and so forth, or basic logic in how you're executing on the code that an AI will not be able to solve for you. That being said, back in the day, one thing that got popular in development was having a paired programming. There we go. You had a Copilot with you. And so an AI like ChatGPT, and the 4.0 branch, by the way, which is not publicly available, you have to pay $20 a month for it, that apparently is far more capable than the public ChatGPT. If you're impressed with the public ChatGPT, which is on 3.5, pay the $20 a month, you get the 4.0, and apparently it's much faster, it's much more competent, it's a much better tool. As somebody pointed out earlier in the stream, they're using ChatGPT to write out some SQL code, so yeah, I think it was JC Botha mentioned that. Yeah, so that's worthwhile, man. That's worthwhile, man. Let me see what's in the comments here. Music, hey, how are you guys? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, cool. All right, good. We're good. So we got things going. That's unbelievable. All right, so yeah, so embrace the AI. Now, the thing is, don't jump into AI and looking at AI until you at least know your fundamentals, so that you're comfortable writing, we'll just use the web stack as an example, writing your HTML, writing your CSS, writing your JavaScript, understanding the DOM and the request response cycle, know your basic CRUD operations, know your basic PHP on the back end, or your basic JavaScript on the back end, or your Python, whatever. Once you have that wrapped around your head, then you can start looking at ChatGPT as a tool. That being said, you could also use it to help you learn more quickly, because you can get into conversations, if you will, with ChatGPT and other tools, and get the back and forth, and it will really help you to flesh out some concepts you may be having difficulty with. So yeah, definitely get into it for sure. All right, so that's cool. That's cool. So again, anybody on Twitter, I'm opening up now. If you have any questions, you want to chime in, ask me questions, let me know, put your hand up or whatever it is you have to do on Spaces, and I will drop you into the conversation. So let me get into some of the comments on YouTube here. So yeah, by the way, I appreciate the thumbs on YouTube. If you like this format where we're doing this thing here, there we go. I think it's kind of cool. We'll see how I can handle it or not. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So let's go on. Let's get to some questions here. Hello from Latvia. Wow. Well, I appreciate it, Mohammed. Good evening, all. Cheers, Brazil. Would be interesting to know how many developers are using GPT-4 instead of 3, if 3 is good enough for programming. I think 3 is good enough, but I think you're going to get, I think it's just much more productive with 4. That being said, I haven't used 4 yet, but I'm gonna buy a license. I'm gonna start licensing it for sure, for a whole bunch of reasons. So yeah, you may want to do, if you're learning and you don't have income, then use 3.5. But if you're making money coding, you may want to jump into it, you know. Aloha, how are you? Hope everything is well. Welcome to the stream. Coffee. Hold on, let me get to some questions. South Africa, very cool. Wow. Hey, Steph, how are you, Mohammed? I hope everything is good. Western Europe, yeah, of course, yeah. I'm just answering questions. I'm just going through, for people on Twitter, I'm going into, I'm just answering some questions. If you guys want to have a voice chat with me, you jump into, oh, I got 2 requests. We're going to try this out. We'll try Matthew, though. Let's get him going. All right. We'll get both you guys going. So one at a time. So, Matthew, speak. Let me know.
Hello, Stefan. Can you hear me?
Speak again.
Can you hear me, Stefan?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I want to see if people can hear you now on. I'm hacking my way into get the volume, the audio from Twitter into YouTube. Yeah. So speak. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, on the question on is a lot of developers using 4, the paid version, I know off the top of my head at least 7 that have publicly said that they're using it. It still has its quirks. I'm kind of tempted to throw some money at it to see if it helped me do some stuff I just don't really feel like learning on my own. Just to knock out some quick little jobs instead of learning certain little things I don't want to learn, to use that to make a little bit of extra cash on the side, you know?
Yeah, why not? Why not? You know, it's Star Try. You want to comment on that?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. How are you, man?
Hey, Steph, how you doing? You okay?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm all right. Well, I'm in London at the moment. It's quite late, but great to be on your live stream.
Well, thanks for coming.
So for the past, I know you don't do Web3, but I'm a Web3 sort of fanatic, and I've been doing Solidity for the past year. I'm really good at it in terms of knowing the code and stuff like that. But I started with your course, CSS, JavaScript, HTML, and I'm in the middle. I haven't got my first coding job yet, but like I said, I'm already proficient with the code. But I'm at the point where I'm doing my portfolio to try to get a job. But I'm kind of there's 2 things. I'm in a learning loop at the moment because I'm going really deep into Node.js and React and that sort of thing, and it's just fascinating, just learning all the full stack as well. And also with Web3 is not only Solidity on the back end, but there's also Ethos.js and Web3.js. So I think my question to you is that shall I use ChatGPT to kind of like do a lot of the bulk coding for me to put on my portfolio in order to get a job, or shall I just do my portfolio from scratch?
It's a good question. I think you should use ChatGPT to speed the process of writing code, but I would not rely on it. Make sure you understand all the code that you're putting out, even if you derive some of that code from ChatGPT. So what you can do with that tool is that you can, if you don't know how to do something, you can ask it. You just ask, the more context you can give ChatGPT, the more accurate result you're going to get. And if you don't understand what it spits out, you can talk to it, if you will, and ask it questions about particular lines, what it's doing. So yes, I would encourage you to use ChatGPT to write out code. But if you don't understand something it writes out, ask it questions, you know?
But the ChatGPT 4, well, I have a subscription to ChatGPT, and I've been using it for a while, and it's very powerful. I mean, you could literally, well, on a Web 3.0 application, you can quickly write a smart contract and deploy it, and then and it will do the front end for you as well. So it's kind of scary in a way where it almost to the point where you don't really have to know code in certain contexts, but in other contexts, like troubleshooting, I was trying to get it to do some troubleshooting the other day, and it didn't really help with troubleshooting. So there is some bugs, but I think as the years, as you know, within the next 3 years, I think you could pretty much talk any app into existence and deploy it just by talking to it.
It's possible, but this is nothing new in development. Like I can tell you from somebody, I've been coding since 94, and without even the AI, the productivity of a developer today, because of the frameworks and the sophistications of the language, I'll get to you in a second, Matthew. You're so much more productive today than we were in the past. Now, if you look at like the web apps that we used to build in the 90s are kind of primitive compared to today, not because the developers are better today, it's just they got much more sophisticated tools. So with ChatGPT, yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of stuff that we have to do by hand now. In maybe 4 years, we won't have to, but there'll be a whole bunch of other things will happen. One of the things will happen, like it's already happened now, is that the sophistication of the code bases and the sophistication of the apps that we're building are just going to get better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, like I know with the advancement in the tools that we have, that we could then build more powerful apps because, you know, like I said, it increases productivity by, you know, a massive amount. So, but you know, from a learner, from a student perspective and from a novice perspective, it is still, I think it's still worthwhile. Obviously, you need to kind of like know the nuts and bolts of the basics in coding. But it's getting so powerful to the point that I think that at some point in the future that you'll just kind of speak software into existence and it will just, you know, write it and deploy it for you automatically. So yeah, but anyway, but it's really great to talk to you.
Oh, that's cool, man. No, it's a good conversation. Matthew wants to drop in. You want to get in on this?
Yeah, I mean, the best use for ChatGPT at the moment is just for a workaround and not read jerk comments on Stack Overflow. I mean, that's really what it is. You know, you got to know the technical way to ask the question to get the answer you want. I mean, it's easy to have it build things like vaporware smart contracts and stuff because none of that stuff's real and exists anyway. But when you're actually trying to build a tangible thing, just use it as a replacement for Stack Overflow so that you can filter out all the clutter and all the stupid comments on there.
Yeah, very cool. Oh, hold on. Let me just answer a quick question here from YouTube, and then we'll get anybody else on Twitter want to jump in the conversation. Let me know. What's up? I am wondering about C# language, if I will be able to work in various fields with that language. The short answer is yes. C# is not going anywhere. You know, it's more or less an enterprise language, I would suggest. It's the Microsoft tool set. But yeah, you know, but you can't, any of the languages, the modern languages out there, they all have their uses. You know, there's no bad language, you know. That's what my Ruby joke is all about. It's like, you know, people who get caught up in what language they're learning don't get caught up with it, because if you learn C# and for some reason you can't find a job there, or the mojo in the market goes towards JavaScript, for you to learn JavaScript will be pretty easy. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. So yes, to answer your question, learn C#. It's cool. You're going to have lots of opportunity with that, even if you don't end up writing C#. So I wouldn't be concerned about that at all. So let's go to the next question here. Abraham says, I have learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I'm currently on React. I look forward to join and become a freelance on Upwork. Okay, very cool. So here's a question. Alif says, how do you go from intermediate to advanced developer? How to stand out for return offer from internship, big corporation, Java dev, since you have lots of experience in the Java world? All right, so how do you advance from intermediate level to advanced developer? It's just building apps, building more and more sophisticated apps. In terms of study, I always recommend you learn two things once you get past the basics. People who watch my channel know what they are. You learn design patterns and you learn refactoring. By learning design patterns and refactoring, you're going to really level up your skill. And you might want to study frameworks. It would be a front-end framework like React or Vue, or study a full-stack framework like Django or Laravel. Or if you get into the Java world, of course, you're going to be using Spring a lot. Why do you want to learn the frameworks? Well, first of all, they're going to make you more productive. Second of all, the frameworks are going to teach you best practices. So it's going to be training. Like I used to do a lot of martial arts and fighting arts. And, a gym in a martial arts, whether a boxing gym or MMA gym or a traditional martial arts gym, the gym is really defined by the best fighters there. And they'll make the gym, they'll establish the gym. If you have like world-class fighters in your gym, everybody's going to be pretty good. Same thing by learning from using one of these top-end frameworks, you're going to be essentially learning from world-class developers. You see how they structure apps and so forth. So besides of the productivity gains, you get the advantage of learning from these frameworks. So that's how you level up from intermediate to advanced developer. So refactoring book, actually I have one here. You see hold on. There's links below. I'm showing, for the Twitter folk, I'm showing the refactoring book. Links below in my YouTube channel. This is the Java version, and there's a JavaScript version. It's the one I recommend. This is the Bible of refactoring. This is going to level up your game. Refactoring is just a process, a predefined process of cleaning up code. So yeah. So what was the last question? How to stand out for return offer internship? Okay, so you want to be very useful to the company that you're working for as an intern. And you want to become somebody people like, somebody you gets along with everybody else. That's a big part of the game of being a professional, is having good communication skills, getting along with others. This is all a very important part of the whole process. All right, let's go on. Again, anybody on Twitter, if you have any questions, let me know. Put your hand up, and I'll let you jump in. So Matilda Soda says, with regards to ChatGPT, he says, that's what I've been saying. We have much more sophisticated software, plenty to keep us busy. Yeah, AI and like ChatGPT 4, 5, 6, whatever, they're just going to raise the bar in terms of what the quality of the software we put out. So I think it's a great thing. Copilot is a perfect way to describe ChatGPT for a developer. Yeah, exactly. That was the title of my stream. The AI should be a copilot, and they're going to be very, very useful for you guys. So let's go on. I'm just reading questions off of YouTube here. I use C# work. It's always in demand. Yeah, that's the thing about legacy technologies, whether it be Java, C#, .NET, whether it be PHP, JavaScript, the website. There's so much legacy out there, meaning there's so much code out there flying around that has to be maintained and updated, that there's going to be plenty of work in these technologies for a long time coming. So I wouldn't be too concerned about jobs in that regard. ChatGPT also saves a ton of time, 100%. Just like a good IDE, a good integrated development environment will save you a lot of time. These AI tools, whether it be ChatGPT or Copilot, definitely embrace that technology. I'm 100% behind that. So, people on Twitter, by the way, I am reading comments off a simultaneous live stream on YouTube. So if you have any questions, feel free to put your hand up on Twitter. I'll be more than happy to answer. Do you think, next question from Mr. Fuller, do you think UX and UI is more valuable than a front-end or back-end developer to a company? Do you think that UX UI is more valuable? No, it depends on the company, right? It depends on the needs of the company. At some point in time, the company may find UI, UX developers more valuable to them, and other times it will be full stack front-end developer. It shifts, right? Mohammed said, it is possible to use ChatGPT with my own data to obtain relevant information, similar to how we search on websites and blogs. Is it possible? No. Well, ChatGPT has to be trained on the data. So if it happens to be the version of ChatGPT or any AI that you're using happens to have been trained on websites. Well, hold on, let me see. Is it possible? Yeah, if it has to be, if ChatGPT happens to be trained on your data, yes. But like if you go to ChatGPT, it says it can't. I think it's after 2021, it can't answer any questions because it hasn't been trained on that data. So that's a big. I'm not an AI guy. Yeah, I'm not an AI guy, but I can say that from what I understand, the data sets are so important. How you provide the data to the AI and how you filter it and you give it feedback is such an important part of the process, as far as I understand. Do you see UI UX field being affected by AI? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's just going to speed up the process again. I'm just checking. Is anybody on Twitter is asking to jump into the chat? No. Okay, cool. What else do we have here? Can you post links in the description of the stream, please? Yeah, I will leave the stream live on YouTube, so you can go watch the replay, and there are links under the video, depending on what links you're talking about. How do I call in? You call in by going to my Twitter account @KillerSites. And if you go into my Twitter account and then you ask to call in, you can call in there. So it's @KillerSites. You see me there. You see Stefan Mischuk. You see me in the red jacket doing this. Let's see. Have you read the paper talking about GPT-4 Spark of AGI? Do you think it really could become an AGI? If so, that would be more concerning. An AGI. I'm not sure what you mean, AGI. I guess you're talking fully sentient. Let me know. Yeah, I think it's interesting to see. I'm not sure how fast this thing is going to go in terms of the AI. It's difficult to say at this point in time. But yeah, it's something that we should be watching, though. Do I need to learn math to work in ML and AI products? Not to work with the products. To build the products, yes. To work with them, no, as far as I understand. There's using AI, and then there's building AI. Building AI is very advanced math and algorithms, I would imagine. But using them and leveraging them is a different thing. You don't need to know that. So it's two different areas. Yeah. How many projects should I build to start learning React, or just go to React after I finish? After you finish the basics, you can build a responsive website and you understand the code, the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. Then jump into React. There you go. Requested. I got somebody requesting. Hold on. Let's see if we get him in. Add a speaker. All right, Lawrence, you should be coming online. All right, go for it, Lawrence.
Hey, Stefan, I don't have a question per se. I just wanted to pop up real quickly and say, really cool seeing you on Twitter Space. You're actually one of the OG technologists that I used to watch diligently a good 4 to 5 years ago when I first made my transition into a technical career coming out of restaurant management. So shout out to you. Again, I don't have any questions or anything. I'm not going to monopolize the stage, but it's just good to see you and hear from you as always. More people should be here because they just don't know. They just don't know.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, man. That's cool. Yeah.
Yep. I remember definitely you did some videos regarding, getting started at 40, getting started at 50, different languages. Are they, still good to learn or not? And that resonated with me because, yes, I was learning Java at the time, which, everywhere I turn, I'm getting maligned for learning Java. And also I'm not 20, right? I'm up there. And it worked. It actually worked. And now I'm able to kind of encourage others. So you're one of my OGs, man. Really appreciate what you've done in the world.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And congratulations, dude. That's cool. Yeah. All right, cool. It's fun for me to hear back from people that I've taught or influenced or helped out over the years. It's very cool. I get sometimes people from like 10, 15, 20 years ago. Getting old. That's cool, though. I always appreciate those calls. It's one of my motivations to do all this stuff, in fact. All right, see what's...
You really helped me out with learning to code because there was, I hit like, at one point I hit a wall where I didn't think I was learning anything, and I felt really silly because I didn't understand anything. And then like you did a video on like, or like your advice was do 20 minutes a day or something like that. And, you know, just plugging away at it. And before you know it, like, you know, I broke that wall and I start understanding stuff. So yeah, so that was really good advice. Thanks very much.
Oh, cool, man. I'm glad I was able to help. Yeah. That's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, you know, I think when it comes to development, I think the number one problem people have when they're trying to learn is not intellectual. I think most people, the vast majority of people, have the intellect to do it. It's just a question of encouragement. It's a question of persistence, calm diligence. I like to say calm diligence, be calmly pursue the goal. I get that from actually fighting again. A breakthrough in my martial arts and boxing is when I was doing heavy sparring, and I used to get, you know, beginners will get anxious or they'll get angry. I was the type of guy to get hit that I want to hit the guy back, and that was not a good thing. And when I got to a point where I was totally at peace in the ring, where you would get punched and you don't react to it at all emotionally, you're just stone cold, relaxed, you flow, and you perform at a much higher level. And I think learning to coding, that's what you want to be. You want to get into that, you know, I'll use a cliche, you want to get into that Zen, that mindset of just like a calm, like, and you hit problems, whether, you know, problems that are complexity or frustration, you just learn to stay calm and persist. That's the key. That's the key to everything. It's something, my father was a teacher, he used to tell me the same thing. The biggest problems he found students had was that as well. So yeah, good stuff. I'm glad I was able to help. Let's go get to some more questions on YouTube. How many projects should I build to start learning React, or just, okay, I did that one already. Chat GPT will go out of business once the world wakes up to the power of Scratch. Very cool. If any of you don't know, Scratch is a visual, if you will. I hesitate to call it a coding language, but it's like you drag blocks, and they use it in like elementary school, to teach kids basic coding concepts. It's pretty, but you can actually develop very simple games with Scratch, you know. Yeah, that's funny. Another question off of the YouTubes here. Do you think that the rise of developer productivity will mean that salaries will be reduced due to needing less employees? No. I just think that the rate of development will increase, the quality of development will increase, and our roles as developers will shift. Believe me, when we were developing web apps in the early 90s to mid 90s, what we did in those days was very different from the type of coding that we did in the early 2000s and then the mid 2000s. So it's always shifting. And yeah, it's like, I'll make a real simple analogy. I think that when carpenters, I'm sure at some point, had to go cut down their own trees and then mill the wood and mill the planks, and then they would build whatever it is they were building. But over time, they would just buy the wood processed. And you got to think of all these coding tools in much in the same light. You have to just think of it that way. So all the AI is going to do is going to remove the burden of some low-level coding that we would otherwise have to do. So I'm not too concerned about it at all. So that's why I say to people, embrace the AI, understand what it can do, what it can't do. I'm already seeing people starting to look for, starting to look for people who actually know the AI landscape in terms of what the tools are out there, so that you can, perhaps you're like a freelancer, you can go into a company, you can say, okay, what business processes you want to improve, and okay, what AI is out there that is available that we can implement to help your business be more effective. So a consultant in AI, if you will. Equally as valuable, I would say, as a coder. But it's good to have a coding background as well, so you can put it all together. So you might build a simple web app for somebody, and then you know that there's certain AIs that are exposed via API that you can leverage, and then use it, and then be hyper productive for particular business clients. So yeah. Again, anybody on Twitter or anybody on YouTube wants to jump in, just check out my Twitter account at @KillerSites. You can jump in and ask me questions there if you want to get in on the live chat. So I'm going to answer some more questions on YouTube here. Hi, Stefan, newly subscribed, and this is my first time watching you live. All right, well, thanks for joining the stream. Appreciate it. There we go. Hi, Steph, I'm working through your mentorship. Once I start freelancing, how do you recommend balancing it with full-time job, non-tech, and how long does it typically take to go full-time freelancing? It depends on the individual. I saw your request. I'll get to you, Dan. I've seen people come to the mentoring program where they already have 3-4 clients ready to go, and other people it takes them longer. You transition from your full-time job that's non-tech to freelancing based on the demand. When you have a growing stable of clients, where the client load is getting to the point where you can't do both at the same time. Now, what's smart to do is to really be sure, before you drop your full-time job, be sure your freelancing business is establishing itself. If you have 1 or 2 clients, don't drop your full-time job. If you have to work extra long hours, 1 or 2 clients could disappear. A nice, safe, stable, as I say, you have 4 to 5 clients freelancing, and they're recurring, and you know them, and you know that they're going to be consistent for you, then good. Then you can start moving away from your full-time job. One thing you could do is if you have a full-time job, you can listen, I can only work part-time if you're in a good negotiating position, meaning you have a good, growing, stable freelance client. So then you can transition that way. And the other thing I always talk about, you have to have a good stash of FU money, emergency money. If you're freelancing, minimum a year, I would say. If you're freelance, if you're going from one job to another, if you're working for somebody and it's a stable job, 6 months is fine. I prefer a minimum of a year. But yeah, so that's how I would do it. So I'm going to jump into Twitter here. We got a question. Add speaker. All right, Dan, go for it. You're on deck, Dan. All right. Dan is having difficulty. Okay, so you should be able to speak now. Okay. Once you get your audio worked out, just jump in, and I'm going to try to answer a question here. Oh God. Seto says, I won't try to read your whole name here. Isn't the book about refactoring a bit outdated? No, refactoring is universal. It's not outdated because the process of refactoring hasn't changed at all. It's not like learning a framework. So no, it's not outdated. So you can jump into that. So I'll try Dan again. Hold on. Add as speaker. Dan can now speak. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, sorry, I was having audio issues earlier, but full clarity, I'm here because of Lawrence. I saw Lawrence was in here, so coming to say hi. Some of the stuff you're talking about is stuff I deal with. I'm a contractor. I do both engineering and technical writing contracts, so happy to talk about that.
Oh, very cool. What do you have anything that's popped up you want to bring up in the meeting, or?
I'm here to listen and hang out and answer questions or whatever.
All right, cool, man. That's cool. So if anybody has any questions, want to jump into the conversation, let's do it. Yeah, by the way, let me know in YouTube and on Twitter if you like this idea of this combined stream. Is it too chaotic, or is it cool? Let me know. Let me know in the comments, YouTube people, and let me know in the Twitter as well. Ian on Okay, Ian on YouTube. There we go. Aloha, looking to join a bootcamp, and I'm wondering if and how AI should be integrated in my learning of Java and HTML. Is there a reason I shouldn't be using AI to help me with learning? You should use AI to help you learn. Why not? It'll speed up the process. You may want to check out my bootcamp, Shameless Self-Promotion, Uncle Steph, UncleSteph.com. But yeah, definitely use the AI, you know. Learn the basics. What I tell people in my bootcamp, go through the fundamental training courses, HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, Python, SQL. Go through those things, do the exercises, do all the projects. As you go, start asking ChatGPT questions, things that may confuse you. Although, if you're using my material, it's an interactive platform. Don't jump the gun, because I have a process in my training curriculum. So I'll introduce a concept early on, then I'll reintroduce it. I'll look at it from another angle later on. So oftentimes, on video 25, you have a question will pop up. In video 26, I'll answer that question, or 28. So, but yeah, definitely start integrating ChatGPT. I think you should become prompt experts. You should start to understand this stuff. Dan wants to chime in. Go ahead, Ben.
I have my own opinion about AI learning as someone who maintains documentation for different projects. I'll give one example. I got a question on Twitter a couple weeks ago saying, "Hey, I'm trying to it doesn't really the technical concept doesn't matter, but I'll just quote the question. I'm trying to hydrate an Astro component, and I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said use the hydrate function, but I couldn't find the function. What do I do?" That was the question. And of course, ChatGPT completely made that up. So ChatGPT pretended that they knew what to do and gave them advice, but it was totally wrong. And as a beginner, you don't really know what to do. So you ask me, right? You ask a real person. You're always going to need a real person when learning until AI becomes 100% accurate.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's one of the things I talked about in a previous stream. To effectively use the AI, you have to know what you're doing, right? You have to be able to. And I did some experiments. I said, okay, write me a class in Java, in the constructor, do this, that, and the other things. But I knew what I was doing. So that's an example of. I wasn't aware of it. It was basically BSing like that. That's pretty funny. Was that Dan? Was that ChatGPT 3.5 or is that 4?
I'm pretty sure it was 4, but I don't remember.
Wow. Okay.
The thing is, either one doesn't have access to the internet, so it couldn't have read my documentation. So other projects like Bing or there are now actually AI specifically trained for docs. They can actually go read the documentation and they're more likely to be correct. But the problem with ChatGPT is that it doesn't go search the internet whenever you talk to it.
Yeah, of course. It's trained. It even tells you it's only trained on data, I think, until 2021 or something like that. So
it's like, would you go to a boot camp for a teacher who has lived under a rock for 3 years or 2 years? No.
Yeah. I can see that argument. Yeah. As the first I heard that it literally BS'd like that. That's pretty funny. Still, okay, so use it, understand what it is, and I'm sure in time it will improve. But that's a very good point. I hadn't heard that before. Do we have any other people who want to chime in on this? Listener. Okay, very good. All right. Let me hold on. Okay, some of you people can't spell. Okay, hold on. Do you think the Java OCA cert is worth getting? I don't know the OCA cert. It seems to have a lot of questions about things you would never use in real life. Well, the thing with Java is an enterprise language. And that would suggest you're going to be working for large companies, which would suggest that you're going to have to deal with HR departments, which suggests that you're going to need some sort of some degree with that. It's just because of the nature of HR. So certs are not the way to go, in my opinion, with Java. I think you're going to need more likely you're going to need a college degree, and most importantly, you're going to need you're gonna need experience to be able to show experience. So I don't know the OCA certification. There's so many certifications out there. Dan doesn't like the OCA. Never heard of it. So
It's just Oracle.
oh, it's Oracle. Okay, there you go. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of certifications, in general. It's I do provide certification services because all these schools wanted me to, so we built a system for it. For me, certifications are, just show what you can do, man. It's a boots on the ground type of profession.
If you get someone in the industry who's prominent to vouch for you, it's worth 10 certifications. That's what I would go for.
That's great advice. Yeah, Matthew, I think would speak to that. Matthew, that's how you got your first gig. Is that right?
Yeah. I learned how to code from you in Steph Camp, UncleSteph.com. But networking on Twitter, networking on LinkedIn, that's what really turned everything around for me and made my freelancing career turn into a full-time position.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it, man. It's that's one of the things I liked about development, and when I got into it initially, it was like it was not a career that was based on there was realism to it. It was like, okay, if you're good and you hang around and the good people, you're going to get the job and you're going to be paid well. That's what I like. There's something real about that, but I always liked and appreciated about coding. So that's great advice. Let me go on. What's going on? Wow, sound is great. Okay, Rack, Node, yes, it's great. I'm just answering questions here on on YouTube here. So if you guys, anybody on Twitter wants to jump in, comment, ask questions, whatever, talk, whatever you want, let me know. Just let me know and I'll let you jump in. Question from Mr. F. Hi, Steph. I'm working through your mentorship. Once I start freelancing, how do you recommend balancing it with full-time? Okay, I got that one. Sorry. The AWS free cloud course guy should have your voice. The guy right now sounds like David Lynch character out of Fire Walk with Me. All right. I don't know that movie, but that's cool. Guys like damn video. Okay. I'm not sure what the context of that statement is. All right. Yeah. 20 minutes a day is a good practice. Remind me of my computer science teacher. I like your way of calm, grounded guidance. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that, Coacher. I'm glad I am able to help. Let's see if anybody else on Twitter wants to jump in on this thing. Requested. Oh, we got more requests. Yeah, go, Dan. Or would you just logged off again? Let me try that again. Add a speaker. We get Dell, add a speaker. All right, Dell, you want to get in here? There's an error adjusting. Okay. Hold on, we're just requesting. Del Gross, you want to get in? Okay, I guess not. Let me know. Hold on, guys.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it. What's going on?
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, sorry. So this one's not exactly like AI related. It's just more like just learning related in general. I've been studying JavaScript, HTML, and CSS for the last year now or something, all of them, and kind of nearing that stage where I'm ready to start, putting a portfolio together and all that. Not exactly. I mean, that's the next stage, I guess. But I just came across as I'm working through these sources that I'm going through, I'm learning through a book, but I just dived into the Odin project on this as a additional resource to just continue to develop my skills. And I don't know, I just kind of as I'm getting in more complex areas of coding, working with the DOM and stuff, I'm realizing that I can make sense of the individual lines of code, and I can do that. I can read code, I guess, but I'm still at the stage where I cannot exactly think of how to put a project together from scratch. And I guess I'm asking is should I focus on problem solving right now, or should I just keep coding and just, I guess, allow the problem solving skills to develop naturally, or how do I go about that? Because I still don't feel like I have the problem solving ability to really code, I guess. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. I'll answer that, but Dan is he seems anxious to jump in. Go for it, Dan. Let me see if I add him as speaker. I guess he got booted somehow. Dan can now speak.
I'm really upset because Twitter just keeps glitching out, so I have to restart the app and then I have to request all over again. So that's what's going on. I'm really sorry about it. But I love this question because I feel like everyone who is a beginner remembers this point that they were at, where like they sort of see each part and like how to accomplish basic tasks, but when it comes to like new problems, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I tend to view programming less about problem solving and more about creation. And if you view it that way, I tend to believe you can feel more empowered. So in other words, instead of, looking at a new problem like, oh God, how do I solve this? Or think of your skills as problem solving skills. Think of it as mastering a specific new thing and applying that new thing to different areas. And I like this better because you can never anticipate like what a new problem might be, but you can master a skill and feel confident about it. Like I'll give a comparison from music. Like I'm a singer and I try to learn guitar as well. And like for improvising, I don't think of it as like improvising with a random group of players. I master scales. I master understanding a key. I master like tuning my voice to what is being played. And once I learn all of those individual skills, then I feel more confident approaching unknown stuff. So focus on the stuff you can know rather than solving the things you don't.
That's
Nice.
cool. That's cool, Dan. That's the analogy I like to make a lot of times. It's I play drums, and you have to know. Again, I always say go to your fundamentals, and I think what you're talking about is the fundamentals. You're talking about the scales and knowing if you're in key or out of key, timing. Once you have that, then you have the ability to self-correct and to be able to learn any song you want, to use the coding, to use the music analogy. You don't need me or a teacher to teach you how to work with this framework. Once you have the basics, you can go in there and figure it out yourself. That's what you got to do. I first was aware of this phenomenon, and I think that's a great point, Dan. 10 points for Dan, 10 points for Gryffindor for that comment. So I think I first saw this phenomenon in martial arts, in fact, when I was like 14. When you're a beginner martial artist, intermediate level, you have to have your teacher correct you on what you're doing, your body position, the body mechanics, your time, everything. But you get to a point, and it's like you hit this watershed moment. And it's just like this with learning to code or anything else. You get to this point where you become self-corrective. You can see where you're making your own mistakes, and you can start correcting yourself. And with that, and how do you get there? You get there by mastering the basics, understanding those basic concepts. So in software development, understanding how to write proper code, the basics, an object, the basic principles and the reasons behind OOP versus other styles of programming, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's exactly it. So going back to Dell, once you've done your basics, so you're talking web stack, once you're comfortable, you can build a website, you can build a responsive site. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but you understand the mechanics, you're comfortable maybe implementing a grid and Flexbox or maybe a Bootstrap, and you got that, then you should try to build something for somebody. And you don't necessarily have to have, you can enter a project without having all the answers. So you can go into something where you don't need to know all the answers of how you're going to build it. You just go into it and you're going to figure out things as you go. But that's how you're going to learn. You can't be a forever student just doing tutorials because you'll never learn that way. You got to get in the ring. Same thing with fighting, by the way. I would tell people one sparring session, 3 rounds, with 3-minute rounds is worth 6 months of training on the heavy bag or on the pads. One street fight is worth 6 months of training in the gym. So you have to get in there and start building something. So once you got your basics down, where you can do as I just suggested, you walk in the DOM, build something. Go find I tell people in my mentoring program, go build, help some local nonprofit fix up their website, or a little independent coffee shop or something, build their website. build something. Yeah. Matthew, go
Thank
for
you.
it.
Thank you. It makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Good.
Working with nonprofits is how I got my hat in the game. I built a lot of sites for local nonprofits. I volunteered time and hours to do it, and it was my stagiaire work to build things, actual living things for my portfolio. You know, because jobs aren't going to look at your tic-tac-toe game or your snake game. Those are cool for practicing your skills, but the jobs are going to look at real things you build, and projects like that are perfect for that kind of thing.
Very good. Dan, jump in.
I have a secret tip. If you're interested in getting an open source, but you feel that your skills in the specific programming language that the open source project is using is not up to par, make them a marketing site. Most open source projects don't have a marketing site or a documentation site. They just have giant readmes. Use your CSS skills. You don't need any interactivity when you're working on a marketing site, right? There's no buttons to click, no forms to run, no servers to have. You just build a nice marketing site for an open source project. They will probably be super appreciative. And then later on, when you're ready to contribute to the project from a code perspective, they will accept you with open arms.
That's a great idea, man. That's cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Very cool. Any other trader? Okay, I'll get you now. Okay, add a speaker. Go for it, man.
Oh, sorry. That was a mistake, Steph. Sorry.
Nah, no worries. Okay. Any other people want to jump in? Well, happy or listen. Okay. All right. So I'll get to some YouTube questions. Okay. Trader has to get in. Go for it.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I spent months and months doing tutorials, and reading books, and nothing helped until I found your tutorials. I started with Python, and then I transitioned to web dev. I have a job now. I was promoted from within the company. And I just wanted to mention that whoever's having issues finding a job as a web dev, half of my job is doing CRM. I do Dynamics 365. So there's a huge market for that. There's called coding involved, and you can use that as a pivot point. And, there's a bunch of certifications that you can use them to get through HR. So, if you're having issues finding a job as a web dev, there's a huge market. And in my whole company, there's like 150 IT members. I think just me and one other person have CRM experience. I didn't have any. I had to learn it in order to get promoted and start coding. I do React, and I do, basically that. So I just wanted to give that input from within to whoever is having issues finding a job.
Very cool, man. I appreciate that. I'll get some other people want to jump in. I am not going to say your name right. Diary? Correct me. You can speak now in about 10 seconds. All right. Go for it.
Hello, guys.
Hello. How are you, man?
Thanks, man. First, I want to say my English is not good, so I apologize if I say something wrong, okay?
No worries.
Thanks. It's been 2 months I'm start learning coding. I start as a front-end developer. And now I wanna know how I find the work. Now I learn CSS, HTML, JavaScript, a little bit of PHP, and I want to know what I must learn to find a job as a freelancer, or I want to work from home because I'm living in Iraq. So,
okay,
what should I do?
Okay, so good question, and Lawrence wants to jump in. Go for it, man.
Hey, thanks, Stefan. I totally didn't plan on answering questions. I came here to listen to you, but I'll say this really, really fast. You can start freelancing right now. There's a guy that I really admire named Peter Levels. You may know him from levels.io. I think he made his first site with like vanilla PHP and a little JavaScript, and it's clocking him like 5 figures a month right now from his house. So don't think you need to know a large number of technologies to do a thing. Those technologies typically, particularly if they're libraries or frameworks, they're made for efficiency. Not knowing them doesn't mean you don't know how to build a thing. You just don't know how to do it the most efficient way, but you can start freelancing today. And then the second part is, as far as jobs, I always recommend people to make a list of 50 jobs that you're interested in. Just go on LinkedIn, Monster, whatever, wherever you find your job listings, and find the exact position you're looking for and look at the requirements. What are they really looking for you to have? Let that be your curriculum, right? If you finish some tutorial, some camp or whatever, you're trying to think of what is next. Look to the marketplace to dictate to you what they're looking for in employers, and that'll tell you the next thing to learn. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. I understand. Thanks so much.
I think that advice is correct, but it annoys me because I didn't do it and I was fine. But I was lucky. Like it's totally true that you should look at the market for what you want to do, but there's still a part of programming to me that feels like art, that feels like a passion project. And some part of me thinks that even if you're going to do what you want to do, you can still make it marketable after the fact. But I don't know. It might be coming from a point of privilege there.
Yeah, I can understand that. How should I say? Yeah, for a lot of people though, man, is that they see development as a route to employment. So I think perhaps it depends where you are financially, and how quickly you want to get that job. If you want to get the job quickly, I think looking at the market demands is the way to go. But if you have a little bit more time, then maybe you can massage that a little bit and pursue a type of development that appeals to you. But you can maybe start, just look at the demand, get that job, and then once you establish yourself, then you can start maybe flexing your muscles and trying different types of development, see what really appeals to you, and then you have that opportunity to do it then. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are what else do I have to add to that in terms of getting a job? Again, I would, once you have your basics down, I'll just use the example of web stack, then just go out there and offer your skills, for free. Do a couple of projects, get some experience under your belt, so you can show people that you can do something, Yeah,
I understand.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. Anybody else want to jump in? Okay, we're good. All right, I'm going to read a YouTube question here from Julian Foresto. Hey, Stefan, I've been coding for over a year now. I'm really into web dev. I'd like to know if you could recommend workflow like Bootstrap Studio to speed up some slow interface building process. Regards. Yeah, as a general preference, I like to use core language components, for lack of better terms, rather than third-party libraries, although there's nothing wrong with third-party libraries. So, you ask 10 different developers, you're going to get 12 different answers about what is the best to use. So I would experiment around, see what you like. Now, again, going back to what Lauren said, you may find yourself loving Bootstrap Studio, but if nobody else wants you to use it, you may not have an opportunity to use it. On the other hand, if you start developing your own SaaS products, your own software, then you can use whatever you want. But one caveat here, be sure not to find yourself using some technology that's hyper niche that might disappear or may not be supported. I have done that, where I developed back in the day, I used some Java front-end framework, which I forget the name now. Anyway, I liked it a lot, and I used it to develop my own apps. And then at one point, nobody adopted that technology, so I was kind of left high and dry, and eventually I had to strip it out because the rest of the market continued ahead. So yeah. Steph, what's the likelihood of landing full-time junior position with only the web stack, HTML, CSS, JS? Very possible. A lot of it, to get the job, is part of it is development skills, and the other part is good communication skills, or as Dan said, knowing people. So we'll see what the people on Twitter. So we got two, Dan first, and then Lawrence. Go, Dan.
No, Lawrence goes first because he's going to say all the good stuff, and I'm just going to fill in the gaps.
Because I said that, I'm going to stand down.
Serious? Fine, Lawrence. Okay. I was going to say that if you're at the point where you feel pretty good about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I highly recommend reading some like modern code bases and learning a framework, because it'll give you just that bit of an edge when you're in the interview and they give you a real problem, which will likely involve React or Vue or whatever framework they're using. The fact that you spent some time learning one of those frameworks is going to give you that edge to answer those questions. If you mastered HTML, CSS, and JS, like actually learned them, it will be very easy to pick up a framework. What's probably going to happen is you're going to pick up a framework, realize you didn't really understand that thing in JavaScript, and then you'll go back to the drawing board and learn JavaScript even better than before. So that's my recommendation there.
Very cool. Yeah, just let me comment on that. Dan pointed out something. Yeah, oftentimes when you run into some complexity, some framework or something you don't understand, typically your problem is some lack of understanding of some fundamental concept or technique. That's what I found in my career anyway. Go for it, Lawrence.
Yeah, I completely disagree. No, I'm just kidding. I just want to have Dan on edge. I agree with what he said. What I've seen as far as job descriptions that only require HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I've seen HTML content editors, I've seen HTML email developers, and one other that doesn't come to mind. Not a number of positions, but there are some out there. If you're thinking from corporate employment as a front-end developer, and it's a corporate situation, they're going to use a framework. They're going to want the most efficient means of putting code out the door. And so you want to have that as part of your repertoire, particularly now where there's so many front-end engineers flooding the market via layoffs, via college, via boot camp, via self-study. You know, it's more accessible now than ever. There's tons of people coming in. So you want to equip yourself with that just as a start. I wouldn't imagine trying to go for a front-end job and don't have either React, Angular, or Vue in my back pocket to some degree, just from a basis of being competitive. Thanks.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So I gave permission to a couple of new speakers. Paul, you're up if you want to go. Paul H. You have the floor.
Test, are we there? Can you hear?
Yeah. How are you, man?
Oh, good. Uncle Steph, it's a pleasure. I've enjoyed watching your channel a little bit the past few weeks. I love your tips and tricks and seasoned perspective on it all. I love the reality that you bring to the just the game plan for folks. I was thinking, I love your point of having something specific to do to drive your learning. When I got into, I started coding like in 7th grade when I was a kid, long ago, back in the 80s, and I had this Dungeons and Dragons character generator I wanted to make. And because I knew what I wanted to do, it wasn't learning, it was playing. It pulled me in, and I always had something specific to kind of drive my learning, and that helped out so much compared to in latter years of my life. I kind of ended up in business and stuff. Yeah, but then so I've gone back to past 4 or 5 years and done like Python stuff. But like I had to do tutorials and stuff, and I lacked specific little things I wanted to do versus that passion I had early on because I had something I wanted to do. So that first point that you make over and over and over again, if you build something real that you kind of care about, whatever it is, you learn 10x. And I just applaud you for making that point. The second tip or thought that went through my mind as I've been listening today was on like revenue angles for people kind of getting into the game of coding. What I found over time, we spent a lot of time doing like data automation, low code, like workflows and stuff. But I've always found that when businesses are invested in whatever platform they have, a CRM, there's always some legacy app that they've put money into. They spent thousands of dollars buying it, running it. People use it, accounting systems, whatever. But there's little tiny tools that you can rip out in Python that add so much value. We worked with one automotive dealer company, and they sucked in all this data from 10,000 auto dealerships, but the data was dirty. For states, they had, Kentucky versus KY and New York versus New York, and it just wasn't spelled right. They didn't know how to clean up their own data. And so we were able to just like snatch it with a Python script, pull it down with a record ID, clean it up, and poke it back in, and it saved them like 2 weeks of having that. They had secretaries doing this by hand. And they paid, $4,000 or $5,000 to clean up their data with literally a 50-line Python script. And I've seen this again and again with We helped some private schools. They were using this software called RenWeb for their kids and their grades. They couldn't get a mailing list out to tell parents about donations because the data was all over the place. But with a little bit of noodling, you could hit that SQL database, snatch data, clean it up, and give them a mailing list. I saw a project a month ago with Dentrix, this little dental app that like 10,000 dentists in America pay for. They pay 15, 20 grand for this software. They use it to run their whole dental practice, and they can't get a mailing list out of it to put into MailChimp. And you can do a little tiny, small project and just go to dentists with the question of, hey, would you like to get your data out of your system so you can send out Thanksgiving and Christmas and Valentine's Day emails? And even though the software kind of says they can do it, just snatching the data out and dropping it in MailChimp is so much easier, and they'll pay for that. But it's like you getting to use some of your code to do it. Otherwise, there's too much friction, and they won't do it. So I found that entry level, a lot of people want to write one big master, huge, complex app to start with. I'm like, man, start with little tiny pieces, with little functions, with little tools, little building blocks that do something that's just real valuable to businesses that are out there. They're already spending money doing what they do every day. But you can stitch together some freelance stuff, and it's repeatable. Once you figure out how to snatch the mailing list out of Dentrix one time, you can do that for 300 more customers, and cash some checks doing that. So I just think if I was getting into the code again fresh, boy, there's a kind of a repeatable thing versus the one-off masterpiece,
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool idea. It's when you freelance, that it reminds me of a story. I remember a client of mine back in the day. He knew this woman who I developed some sort of simple Excel template, if you will, and it was useful for a certain type of business or a type of accountant or bookkeepers or something. And she was able to sell a ton of these things. It was a simple thing, very niche, very specific for that industry. So I like where you're going with that. For sure, you don't necessarily have to be an app developer to make money in the coding space. I have another friend who works at an animation house, and all their render farms are managed by Python. So they were desperately always looking for Python scripters, not application developers, but scripters, just to maintain the servers. So yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, and as you said, the passion project. I really got my head wrapped around Java building a dating site. So I figured I learned a lot about Java. Go ahead. So yeah, this is back in the day. I had a dating site, and so when you own a dating site, it has certain advantages. But yeah, I really learned Java because it was so much fun to build a dating site and the messaging, and be Friday night, everybody else would be out partying, and I go, no, I'm working on my dating site here. This is too much fun. So I get that. We have a couple of other people. Mar, M-A-R. Do you want to chime in?
Oh, is that me?
Yes.
My turn?
How are you?
Oh, great. Thank you so much. My name is Maria, and I am a community manager for open source projects. And sometimes I work with various companies and all kinds of developers. I was just sorry if this is not on topic, but I just kind of wondered if you could share any of your thoughts about when some developers have like multiple projects that they're working on and they want recognition. They have different GitHub accounts. Do you have any suggestions for having them do everything from one account or keeping with multiple accounts, because some of the companies want them to have specific accounts to contribute? So that's kind of just my question.
So these are all developers working in the same organization? Is that what you're...
No. They're like freelance. They're kind of like what you were explaining earlier. They're trying to use open source as a way to build up their portfolios. And so they are hopping on different projects from different companies. Some companies want them to have a GitHub account under their specific, will give them an email address so that it's connected to that company. But they don't get credit for the other things that they were doing, right? And so I was just kind of, wondering what some other people's thoughts were about how people get credit for the contributions that they're making.
Fair enough. I think, I can understand companies or organizations that want to keep the code under their control. So that's something that makes sense to me, and from that point of view. From the point of view of the developer, I guess this is where, you can create a paper trail for yourself, for lack of better terms, establish relationships, document without revealing anything, but document what you're doing. So it's pretty clear that you did work on these projects. That's what I would do. That would be my inclination. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Have you ever had people merge accounts in GitHub so that they have like multiple, from the developer standpoint, because that's kind of where I'm trying to coach the developers on how to get credit for their contributions.
Yeah, well, no, you want to, you got to respect the owner of the code base, and you got to make sure you follow the protocols. So the developer has to respect the people they're working with or working for in that regard. I would just document things, keep records. It's a tricky thing. You don't want to start harvesting code that you've written for some other organization, put it on a private GitHub account. I wouldn't advise that necessarily. That's how I would do it. But I think just documenting what you've done and putting on LinkedIn and having good relationships with people, and that's how you can sort of build up your credibility. If that's something I haven't actually looked at myself, because I hire people. So when I hire people, if this is any insight, I want I get them on my account, and I give them what access I want them to have, and I expect them to work on that account, since I'm paying for the code. But I'm not sure why an organization wouldn't want to give somebody credit for what they've done. I don't quite get that. Can you give me some more insight into that?
Well, like an organization might want them to have a GitHub account under an email that they give the developer.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore the developer has maybe a history under their own personal account, and they might be working like on an AI project for a while, and then the company might say, oh, that's interesting what you're doing. We want you to do that as well for us. Here's your email address. You can start contributing to this repo. But it doesn't show, for the developer's sake, it doesn't show like the continuity of having worked on that AI project before and then continuing to work on it with underneath that, freelance project or that short, or that new company. So that's where I'm kind of trying to advocate for the developers to get credit for the continuity of how long they worked. Maybe they want to show that they've worked on something for a year, and but this new email address under this new company that's bigger and has a bigger name, it only looks like they've worked on it for a month, right? So just trying to figure out how to support them and how to help them have that continuity and get that credit.
Okay, I get that. I would just document that, and I would, in resume, I would just say, due to the company, they wanted me to shift to this other email account, and just be transparent in that regard. Lawrence, you have something to add?
Very briefly, yeah. Because I'm fairly certain I'm missing some context in this question. You've asked it perfectly, but I'm thinking I'm missing something. So I'll just throw this out there. If there's some open source project that I find online somewhere, and I make a contribution, I make a pull request, and it's accepted, that's all of the acknowledgement that I need. it's on my GitHub. I got my green squares. I have my pull requests. I can talk about it. I can document it as long as it's not, under an NDA or something. That I don't need anyone to tip their hat and say thanks if that's what you're going for. Now, if there's another company that's making me jump through enormous hoops just to be able to submit code, and my purpose is not necessarily employment, it's just to continue to submit code to get better in my craft by participating in larger projects, they just need to find another company. There are too many open source projects with people not accepting the issue, not looking at the open issues. Like, there's too many options just on GitHub alone to participate for anyone to just, really be ripping their hair out and going through all these fiery hoops just to get to, quote unquote, submit code. And if that doesn't work, then create your own. That's the cool thing about being a developer. And I think Paul hit the nail on the head. We can just make stuff. Like, on any given day that you're not working, you can just make stuff. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much for your feedback. Yeah, these are very niche areas, and so that like you said, jumping through hoops and people wanting credit from certain companies and having that kind of branding and so forth. It's just a coordinating thing. But thank you so much for your efforts and your input. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate having these Twitter spaces where people can talk and discuss these things. So thank you.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining the space. ISM, if you want to jump in, I gave you access to speak. You're on deck if you want to. Yellow shirt. I get very truncated display of the name, so my apologies. So while I'm waiting I got a question from somebody on the YouTubes here. Let me just get to this. Good evening, Steph. I did a deep dive into AWS last year and got their foundational level cloud computer certifications. Do you see any value for developers to have some working knowledge of AWS? Oh, again, it's same thing I say. It's good to understand AWS. I wouldn't run out and do it. I categorize AWS or many technologies as need to nerd. Learn them on a need to nerd basis, meaning you have a project comes up or a job that comes up, then you learn it. Again, AWS is very powerful, but not everybody needs to learn it. It depends on what you're doing. So yeah, again, you can't lose by learning something, right? Because you may never implement AWS, but you probably have learned concepts and ideas that you can apply in other areas. Let me answer another question off of YouTube. I just turned 30 and I've had a lot of dead-end jobs and struggled to make ends meet. I really want to learn coding, but I don't know where to start. Start with the basics. I always suggest the web stack because it offers the widest opportunity of jobs and widest in terms of the type of development that you do and the type of places you may work, and you could freelance, and it's very approachable. You don't need a powerful computer. You don't need, I would just jump into the web dev. Let's see. ISM, do you want to jump in? Let's see if there's anybody else here. How are we doing? Okay, so that's all right, so okay, you just want to jump in. Okay, let's see if I answer any more questions on YouTube. Creative Life says you should teach us a good combo in case an interview goes badly. That's funny. Thank you. Genius response, great advice. All right, let's see if we got any more questions. I like this conversation, by the way, because we have very beginner questions, career questions, more advanced questions. Yeah, it's good. Hey, Steph, I'm studying web dev at college, learned basic JavaScript, HTML, CSS. We're now free to choose a programming language. What would you recommend to focus on? Are you comfortable with JavaScript? Do you know what you're doing? If you do, if you can walk the DOM, maybe learn a framework. Another language, I would learn Python maybe. It's a good general purpose language. It will, Python has got its hooks into the whole AI space, so you may want to get into that. I'm a big advocate of people learning that stuff because that's kind of where it's going. Not necessarily being an AI developer, but just hooking into it. Like I have a friend of mine, he has a pretty successful business, and he's not a developer himself, but he's got his team of developers, and they leverage AI to provide chatbot services that are customized for particular types of industries and businesses. And it's doing very well. It's doing very well. So yeah. So what else? What other questions do we have here? Hold on. If anybody, by the way, on Twitter wants to jump in, comment on anything, just let me know. I'll get you in. Okay, somebody got a question for me. Okay, well, I appreciate that, Sydney. Question, here we go.
Hey, Steph, it's a quick question. How are you finding this interactive conversation now that you have discovered Twitter Spaces?
I like it because I love doing live streams, but I had stopped for quite a while because I had a persistent, not serious, but a persistent illness. And I wasn't my productive day, every day rather, I could maybe work 2 hours, max an hour. And I was just really out of it. So I'm getting back into it. I kind of like this because, frankly, I don't have to necessarily speak for an hour entirely. So it's kind of cool having other people jump in. I don't know everything. And so having people contribute, give their point of view, I think it's kind of fun. What do you guys think? What do you guys like this interaction?
I know everything.
So, yeah, it's cool. So generally speaking, yeah, Matthew, jump in. Go ahead.
What Seth was trying to say was his close personal friend, Matthew, introduced him to Twitter Spaces. And now he's addicted and he's going to keep going.
Repeat that last part. I didn't hear it quite clearly. Go ahead.
Oh, I said what Stefan meant to say was his close personal friend, Matthew, introduced him to Twitter Spaces. Now he's addicted and he's going to keep doing them.
Yeah, you should check out Matthew, by the way. He has a pretty active Twitter space with a lot of developers, some heavy hitters too, if I recall. What's the name of your Twitter handle there?
Matthew_webdev, and I do the junior developer support group.
Yeah, so check that out, man. Check that out. Yeah, no, I like Twitter Spaces. It's very cool. It's very cool. I really enjoy the back and forth in the conversation. So very good. So let's see. I got a question on YouTube here. Just got my first job working on backend API and web dev. Congratulations, by the way. Mr. Herrero. I probably said that wrong. But it's vanilla PHP Laravel backend with vanilla JavaScript frontend. I was wondering how you get a second job that uses different techs. Well, if you want to switch to another job, start looking around, start applying. I recommend you stay in especially your first job, try to stay there a year so that employers don't like seeing people jump around too quickly. But just start looking around, start looking around what the market is. You're in a position now, which is good because you got a job where you can start, and I assume you have income, so you can start exploring technologies based on what you like to do. And you can start checking that stuff out, and you have some opportunity to maybe find yourself in a niche type of job that appeals to you, Yeah, let's see what's going on. Tariq, so people on Twitter Spaces, if you don't know, I'm doing a simultaneous, whether you get it, stream on YouTube. So I'm answering YouTube questions, and I'm also fielding questions on Twitter here. So Tariq, old-time listener, 4:30 a.m. in Karachi. Wow, time to eat the meal before starting the fast. Very cool. This combination is a great idea. And Chief, very sorry to have you out early. What did he say? I was trying to have stuff stand out. Okay, no worries, man. Fasting's cool, by the way. I started fasting a few years ago, and I found it to be very, very, very beneficial. Casey, you're on deck. I'll get other people on Twitter Spaces. Go for it, Casey.
I was just going to say that the Twitter Spaces is awesome. Everybody sharing is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say Twitter Spaces is awesome. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, actually.
And the back and forth and everybody can share and stuff is pretty neat.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I agree, man. And Matthew is correct. He did introduce me to it. So we'll get this Tech Rally. You are on. You got the floor. Tech Rally. All right. We'll go to the next guy here. You can jump back in a little later. No alternative. You are now speak if you want to. No alternative. All right. Okay, I'll see how you guys go. So I hope everybody on YouTube is enjoying this stream. Okay, let's go. Creative Life, do you think freelancing is an option for entry-level devs, even with the amount of developers that were just laid off? I want to freelance, but I'm concerned it's saturated at the moment. Yeah, you just find entry-level jobs. The layoffs are typically, I haven't looked at the market, but the layoffs to me are headline layoffs, and you hear a lot of news, but it doesn't necessarily mean tons, percentage-wise. Which percentage what percentage of developers are being laid off, right? I think a lot of the layoffs in the big companies, the Metas and so forth, I think a lot of them are not developers. A lot of them are middle management types and so forth. So I wouldn't let that get you down. And even if it turns out to be a significant percentage, which I doubt that it is, I would just keep working towards your goal. You'll get there. And what happens in publicly traded companies, especially, they always want to make the quarter. So it looks good. So the stock market will respond accordingly. So they'll cut very quickly, just as they hire very quickly when the buzz is on. So I wouldn't be too concerned about these gyrations in the market. Just continue on course. You'll be fine. Build up your FU money, as I say, and keep developing your skills. The most valuable investment you can make is in your skill sets. So what do we got here? Requested. So I'll try Tech R again. Add a speaker. It's Tech R. Can you get in?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. How are you, man?
Hey, Stefan. I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel. Kind of was one of the big inspirations of why I started mine. So I really love your live streams. Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen you live stream in a while, so it's really cool that you're doing this. I am curious, as someone that is working full time right now and trying to do this YouTube and like side hustle and everything like that. When you went full time doing what you're doing, like how do you stay up to date with like modern technologies and all that stuff?
Well, my general thinking is like I don't follow. I'm not up on all the new libraries and so forth. I take a look. I see a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? In terms of a lot of new technologies, I see new variants of stuff that I've seen for many years now. So I and a lot of the stuff I find that's developers buzz about are not necessarily super important in the marketplace. But ultimately, I also talk a lot about other things. I go very high level, career oriented in terms of my perspective on development. What I try to do, and it was born out of a hobby. What I try to do is bring to the internet, to the web, my perspective going back the decades. So there's a lot of people talking about the latest and greatest iterations of this framework or that library, and I'll leave that to them. What I try to bring to the table is just my experience. So for me, I don't have to keep up to date with too much. That being said, I do think that AI is super important. I think it's an evolutionary jump. So as such, I'm paying much more attention to that than I am to the latest JavaScript framework or the latest Python module or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I'd be curious on your thoughts. Do you think it would be possible to do coding interviews with GitHub Copilot and AI as part of it? Or is it still, do you think like there's a benefit of just doing it on your own? And maybe thinking about like, I feel like immediate answer is no, but maybe 5-10 years from now, is that just like part of someone's workflow?
What do you mean? In terms...
Just like how people say like, just like people how say like, oh, you could just Google this stuff anyways. Like, do you think when you are doing like a coding interview, can I just say like, oh, can I use my GitHub Copilot as part of this interview process? Like, you know what I mean? Do you envision that there could potentially be like a scenario where that's actually acceptable?
Okay, from the point of view of hiring, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't like giving live tests. What I would do is I evaluate the person more, I know it's going to sound strange, based more on character. I learned this from one of my mentors many years ago. You can always teach somebody something, but you can't change who they are. And so what I would do is if I'm hiring a senior dev, I would say, what have you done? And I would ask them questions, and given the answers they give me would tell me what level of developer they are. And then I would say, okay, show me your GitHub, or send me some samples of your code. And I would see if they would ask me smart questions. And that's how I do it. So in terms of if I was doing code test, yeah, I would let them use whatever they want if I was to do that type of thing, because that's what real developers do. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, thanks for your response. Again, big fan of yours, and please do more live streams. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, guys. Let me give you a story. So a friend of mine, he's in the AI space, and he's a highly experienced developer. He worked for me actually 15 years ago, and he's doing his postdoc in AI development now. And he was just hired by one of the big companies. I won't say the name. A huge company, and we all know it. And he told me he failed the technical exam. He failed half of it, even though he's a superb developer. But it was on something that he just, he had forgotten how to do that particular thing. But they still hired him. And he said, I messed out half the exam. He failed pretty badly. He said, it doesn't matter. They liked who he was. They knew his ability. And so for this very big name, they said, we're going to bring this guy in anyway. So I don't know if that gives you any insight into anything, but that's true. Got a question on YouTube here. Greetings, Stefan. As a newbie, how do I use AI while learning my first language? I'm halfway through your HTML5 course. Finish the HTML5, CSS, and if you run into any issues and you're starting to mess around with the code, do the projects, just jump into the AI, jump into ChatGPT and start asking it variations of things and do a little back and forth, But I would suggest just completing the curriculum because I answer the most common questions. All right, guys, almost 2 hours in. So I'm going to call it, we're going to wind this up. Any other questions before I go? Yeah, so to answer that previous question, I really enjoy this format. Thanks everybody for joining. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate the questions. And I think it makes it a lot more fun. Yeah, very cool. So I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's questions. Let me know in the comments below on Twitter or on YouTube whether you like this format, what you think I could improve. I know I wasn't able to get to everybody's question because I got a whole bunch of questions on YouTube, of course. But we're 2 hours in. So I bid you all a good night, and we'll be doing this again very soon, I'm sure. Thanks again, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, Steph. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right, guys. I finished the Twitter. There we go. Let's disconnect this. And I'll answer a few more questions on YouTube. Could you describe your ideal worst student's properties and methods? Worst student is the person who is not patient with themselves, a person who gets angry and frustrated and starts blaming other people. Kurt, patience and persistence and calmness is a virtue that will serve you very, very well in life. So, yeah. I'll answer 2 or 3 more questions on YouTube here. What do you think? A machine cannot replace the creativity of humans. The human subconscious can access dimensions without regulations. The machine needs regulations. Yeah, well, right now anyway, but that comes into question what thinking really is. You know? Hi, Miss Chuck. I'm from Brazil, and you are my inspiration. I'm glad I could help. Thanks for that. I'm beginning in software development, coding, and JavaScript. What do you recommend for me as a backend developer? I'm beginning in software development, coding, and JavaScript. What do you recommend me as a backend developer? Again, look at the job opportunities. Check things out. If you want to freelance, it's PHP. If you want to get a job, probably JavaScript, Node. That would be my recommendations. All right, guys, 2 hours in. Thanks for joining the stream. I'll leave you with my ASMR video here. And yeah, we'll see you pretty soon.